So what I'm doing, I am recording now, okay? So if you feel funny about recording or anything like that, feel free to adjust things on your, however you want to do things, whatever. But it's not going to be used for anything other than make it available for somebody who wasn't here. So someone who wasn't here missed out on roll and a couple other things. They missed the quote. But there's a couple of things I want to get into now that I'd like you all to be with me on. And I think that's a good deal. What I'm going to do is open up the syllabus on the back in As You Learn. So it is listed, it's posted in under the first box in As You Learn at the bottom right there. Response here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, oh, there it goes. Good, good, good. All right, now, and I'm going to go to the bottom of the top screen, the syllabus. And if you can look at it, zoom it up or whatever on yours, that's cool. I've got where my office, look at start from the very top. This section is 101, okay? There is a 102 going on at the same time, and it is online also. It's going on a different, from a different planet or whatever. But the meeting time that was initially set up was for the 10:20 I asked you to meet today. Every day from now on, there's not going to be an attendance taken, okay? There will be a matter of, I've got several different links on there for some recordings that I'm going to be giving for different aspects of the course. And today, and I'm going to ask you tomorrow too, I'm also going to give a live deal, but I'm going to record it from the beginning tomorrow. And so if you can't make it, or if somebody can't make it for some reason, the recording will be there, all right? But at the same time, there is something about getting the live opportunity to answer questions. Know that there's something, a benefit that comes with it. And I really, so every once in a while, I do want to have a meeting. I wanted to have at least one today. And now we're going to move on though. And other days, if you can't be here, I'm going to have the 10:20 to 12:30 time slot. If we don't meet, I'm going to have that as open time for office hours, okay? So for instance, tomorrow I'd like to meet at 10:20 also, and have some time. But when that ends, I will be available if you've got questions or something like that until 12:30 to answer questions you may have. On Thursday, I'm going to shift more toward not having a live meeting and just have office hours. So I will be available I'll set up a Zoom. And it's in the top box up there. At the top of the top box is a Zoom for office hours. I think I've got it called. And you can feel free to click on that, and I'm going to keep that up. And that's where anytime you go for office hour kind of moment, that's where you go to get that one. The other ones, if like today's meeting was in week 1 today, you click on the Zoom link and you get in the class. But other times, if you just want to go to my office hours, it'll be in the top box. All right. All right. There's a few things here at some point. Make sure you go back and look at the different thing. But if you notice, you're being asked to look at things in a variety of different ways. So I'm going to ask you, so you're going to need to be able to show your work always. I'm coming from the math ed take, and I think a lot of math teachers today teach this way. You don't just go for the correct answer, even though that's the goal of the situation. I want you to demonstrate to me you understand it. So the verbal, I'm noting here on the syllabus, the verbal, numeric, be able to operate with numbers, do the math, symbolic, be able to use the symbols to represent the information, and graphically be able to represent data that we're talking about. So, and be able to read graphs, be able to communicate it, and go from there. Look at the second one here, limits, derivatives. Derivatives is a key thing of the circumstance here. Of the big portion of the semester is going to be about derivatives, but you need limits in order to talk about that. Antiderivatives and definite integrals are all going to be done, and I'm going to ask you to be able to calculate all those things. But derivative appropriately to apply problem-solving situations, we're going to do several of those. And the last thing is to be able to communicate using words, with numerical data, with symbolic notation, and with graphs, that you understand the material. So those of you, that's basically it. Any other questions? I know there's not a whole lot of question opportunity on that, but Okay, let me come back to this. So I'm going to come back to something I say up here under office hours. When we're not meeting for class time, 10:20 to 12:30 are going to be set office hours. And if those don't work for you, let me know. And I'll see if maybe in a couple of days, I could change it to be a different time or something like that. But if you need communication with me, I'm here at my home base. These numbers are at the school, and they're asking us to not go there unless we just want to go for a short minute, okay? So the idea is to drop me a line, send me an email, and let me know what's going on in a certain circumstance, or come to a Zoom meeting during office hours. That'll be a cool way to go. Also, yeah, let me say this. My name, Robert, my birth name was Robert Gregory, okay? Wenta. And Wenta is an Eastern European kind of thing. It's a Venta, I guess. It's got a V-ishness to it. It's kind of cool. Looking it up, there's a nomadic tribe where the Wend, they were Wendish, the Wends. They had a Wendish language. It's kind of an interesting little deal. You can see roots of it in all the Eastern European languages. It's kind of cool. But anyway, it's of the wind. Isn't that special, the Wenta? But the Wents, WNDTs, and the Wenties, Wentas, it's kind of a local deal. But I've got my EDD again. It's a doctorate. So if you prefer Dr. Wenta, I'll receive that, okay? But my name is Bob, and I go by Bob. So if you prefer the doctor, if you want to call me Dr. Bob, I'll welcome that. If you want to call me Bob, I will not be offended. And I've been responding to several of you. I've been saying Dr. Bob Wenta, just to keeping it formal until I meet you, so to speak. But if you want to call me doctor, you're welcome to do that. It is there. It's been earned along the way. But at the same time, my name is Bob, and I feel comfortable you're calling me that, okay? So let me know if I ever call you something and it's something you'd rather be called, something different you'd rather be called, right? Okay, so the best way to contact me is the email. Okay, 1025 pre-calc needed to be behind you. A graphing calculator is required for this course, meaning when you finish this course, you need to be able to use that tool. And TI-83, TI-84 is what I have on hand here. I use Desmos a lot for demonstrations because it shows on the screen well. And Desmos will be happening, so you might want to get familiar with that. You can also download Desmos to your phone if you haven't done that yet. If you got an iPhone, you know, you can download Desmos. It's free. There's no charge to it, and it's a really good graphing calculator if you haven't used it before. I'll be using it a whole bunch and going from there. Let's go down to the grading part. I want to so I'm not talking quite so much. I'm going to need to close shop in just a little bit. I want to make sure I get through everything I want to. Look at me at how the grades are being determined here. Attendance participation, again, there's no attendance grade. I usually keep one. I want people to be there. I want you to be here, but there's a variety of things going on right now that everybody's schedule can be all over the place. I'm glad you all are here today, but I know that there's some of you that are saying you work full time and now you'll be here, but you're not going to be here every day. So I think attendance is not going to be a situation, but look what I said here. No makeup exams will be permitted except for extreme circumstances and prior approval. Let me know if you are going to be away, but it's going to be electronic when I give the test, so I don't know how that should be an issue. But one missed exam, if you don't show up, it'll be a 0, okay? But one missed exam, I will give you 85% of what your final exam percentage was if you miss it. That's what my normal thing is in the class as well. But so it's only 85% of it though. And usually the final exam isn't necessarily always the best score for everyone. So don't miss any. On the day of exams, make sure you see how I set things up. I think it should be available for you throughout the day of the exam. I'll talk about that in a minute. But your lowest taken score, the percentage, it's out of 100, will be replaced by the final exam percentage, okay? If it's better. If the final exam is better. So if it's not better, then you'll just get the final exam score. It's going to be out of 150, but it will not replace anything. All of your other exams will stay in place. So there's going to be 4 exams and a final. And the final percentage will replace your lowest exam percentage if it's better, okay? That's the idea. There's homework, it's sapling, it's worth 80 points. It's going to be worth 20 per test, okay? So you need to get in and do the sapling problems. I'll talk about that again in just a second. We're going to have probably, I'm planning on like 5 quizzes. And the top 4 are going to count at 20 each, that's 80, and the final exam is 150. So the total is based on 750 points. The tentative exam dates are given here. Tuesday next week, and then Wednesday, the rest of the way out. And then the plan is the final exam to be on Friday, the last day of the last class that we meet, or what we're scheduled for, okay? So this week, there's no exam. Next week, Tuesday, the week after, Wednesday, the weeks after, and then after this, June 24th, Wednesday, Friday is the final. We'll have Thursday to be a review. Okay, that's the general plan. And what I'm going to do with the exams now, and quizzes too, is exams will be given on those days, but it's going to be available. I'm going to give you a certain time window to take the exam. It's going to be more than just an hour, that a 50-minute, it would be a normal class period. But it's going to be, I'll give that to you anytime during the day. I'm going to set it up for the exam to be given during our class time, from 10:20 to 12:30, in that window. And if you can make that, fantastic. If you can't, or you prefer to have it a different time of day, you can move it. You need to let me know. You've got the dates here. Let me know that date where you're going to need to take it at a different time, and I'll set that up for you, and you can take it then, okay? And for right now, I'm thinking maybe an hour and a half, or maybe an hour and a half window during this 10:20 to 12:30 time slot, and therefore an hour and a half window anytime during that day, okay? So I'm thinking like 7 o'clock in the morning to maybe 11 o'clock at night. From 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., you'll have an hour and a half to take the exam. That's my plan, okay? Any questions about that? Remember, your mic might be muted if you're trying to say something, so.
Did you say how many questions would normally be on a quiz or an exam?
Well, the first quiz I'm going to give, tomorrow we're going to do an in-class problem that we're going to practice uploading, and that'll be something we'll do, and I think that's just going to be 1 question. But on Thursday, on Friday, I think I'm going to give a quiz that's got a couple of questions more to it, and it's just a few questions. Exams typically are like going to be a classroom exam, less than 10 questions, but I want to cover more material than just a few concepts. There's some things that need to be done, and sometimes they need to be shown in a few different ways. But typically less than 10, almost always less than 10 questions, definitely less than 10 numbers. Sometimes you have 2 questions and they're under the same format or something. But yeah, I appreciate your asking.
Thank you.
Okay, good. I want you to be in with me on this class, you guys. Calculus, if you've already got it under your belt, then I'm going to ask you, and you can set some really high goals for yourself to stretch it, to get it even better, to understand some of the problems that are even more challenging than others. Go that route. It's in the text, okay? You can look things up in the text. Particularly, I'll mention some things and say, if you're going on, that you're going to want to look at this, okay? But if you're going through, and this is your last math class or something like that, there's a different perspective involved in the situation. But I want you all to be engaged with this. Do the problems. Listen. Be thinking when I work through the problems. I've given some, listen to my recordings, okay? I think I tried to cut them short, make them not too long. All of them so far have been 15 minutes or less, and trying to keep them less than 10 if I can. But there's going to be several in the process of doing getting the ideas across. Let me drop on down. The clock's ticking. Integrity. I want you guys just to be honest across your board. There's opportunities all over the place to get away with stuff online. Just keep your integrity up to a T. Keep it sharp, okay? And just be honest about stuff, and definitely don't use somebody else's stuff as your own. And just be, dude, I'm going to assume you're following the academic integrity code at App State. All right. If you're taking something with me, I'm assuming you're adhering to that. All right. So make sure, just be honest, adult, and I'm going to try to treat you as adults is my take. And that's kind of how I speak from the classroom as well. Okay, so make sure we do that. Also, if you've got, again, by signing your name, by taking a quiz, etc., you're saying that your integrity is cool. If you got a disability you want to work with, make sure you go to the ODR office, Office of Disability Resources. If you need more time or something, make sure you let somebody know. They can get me feedback. I don't know how responsive they are in the summer, but the situation is usually I'm going to give more time than usual. So I hope there'll be enough for you. Let me know if you've got an issue that needs attention, okay? And we can verify it from there. Tutoring. There is going to be tutoring available. I've given a tutoring link on the syllabus, and it is going to be Monday through Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 5 to 7. The tutor's name is Christian Payne, and he's got a specific way he wants you to do things there. Bring everything you need to the meeting, okay? Make sure you have it in front of you, and your laptop, your textbook, class notes, whatever it is you're working from. And you can see he's got a note down here saying what he wants you to do to log in. So they need to keep track of things and combination of different things there. Okay, anything that I went over too quickly or something you want to clarify at this point? Okay, so one thing I want you to do, let me tell you about sapling real quickly. Let me say this. Let's go back to this. Sapling is worth 80 points total, 20 points per test. The first test, I'm going to give 10 points for chapter 1 and 10 points for chapter 2. We're only going to cover a couple sections in chapter 2. And in chapter 1, I'm going to say, get familiar with sapling. Chapter 1, you got full credit. Everybody's got 10 for 10 for chapter 1, okay? The grading's going to start in chapter 2. Get in there, do the sapling problems, make sure you're confident with them. You should have 3 attempts. You should be able to try it 3 times. The third time, it'll buzz and say the buzzer will say, no, wrong. And the situation is that you need to get it in the first couple attempts. And if you don't get it, get with me, figure it out so that you can get credit for it, okay? The idea is to get credit. Make sure you understand the material. Some of the questions are really, really super straightforward. Some of them are a little more algebraically challenging. And I'm going to ask you to dive in. As a calculus student, you should be able to, your algebra skills should be under your belt. So some fundamentals we'll talk about in just a second. I want to do 2 problems with you real quickly, and we'll go from there, okay? So you've got full credit. Experiment with sapling, chapter 1 stuff, 1 through 1-5. Try those, get them all, do them quickly, get that under your belt, get behind them, because chapter 1 and the first couple sections of chapter 2 are going to be on the first exam next Tuesday. So between now and the weekend, there's several things you need to get under your belt, and we'll review and finish up early in the week, next week, right? That's what the plan is. Okay, let's do a couple things. Okay, and I'm going to move through this kind of briskly, but here's the idea. If you have a graph, and that's what I've drawn there, so x is on the x-axis, and f of x is on the y-axis. All right, so if you've got 2 different points, x down here, x, I'm underlining the x, and we move over to the right a little bit, we add h to that x, okay? So we end up, the 2 points on the x-axis are x and x plus h. And on the y-axis, we've got our y is going to be, for the x, it's going to be f of x. And for the x plus h, it's going to be f of x plus h, whatever those 2 values are. So look what this situation is. And if I take x plus h over here and subtract the x, notice what I get. X plus h minus x, the difference between those 2 points is, we get that x's cancel and you end up with h. So notice what this is, this difference quotient. This is the change in y over the change in x. And what is that called? Change in y over change in x. Anybody?
Slope.
Yes, slope. Good, good. Change in y over change in x. You got 2 points, it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, this slope. So what this difference quotient is doing is calculating the slope, the change in y over the change in x. But when we get the limit in front of it, it's going to become, that's the definition of a derivative. okay? Let's do an example here really quickly of what would the answer be. And you guys think about this with me. Be with me on this, okay? This is what I mean, be engaged. Here's a function, y equals 3x plus 7. What's the slope? Yes,
3.
you know it, right? Y equals mx plus b. What is it? 3. Yes, the slope is 3. Well, what this does is, this difference quotient is equal to f of x plus h. Now remember this, f of x, if f of x is 3x plus 3, plus 7, then f of x plus h is going to be 3 times x plus h. Everywhere there's an x in the function, there's going to be an x plus h instead. So we end up with this instead. F of x plus h is this, right there. That's f of x plus h. And then you got to subtract f of x, which is, notice you need parentheses here, critical. We got two terms, they both need to be affected by that minus sign. Every time it's going to be a subtraction. So make sure you keep the parentheses going, and that's going to be over h. Look what happens now, we distribute it, we get 3x plus 3h. Do this with me if you got it going. It'll be a good habit because some of these are, it's going to be similar to what we're going to do with a bunch of stuff. Notice these 7s cancel. We got a minus 3x and a plus 3x. You end up with 3h left on top over h. And the answer to that is 3. You notice that? That is what you knew the slope was, okay? By looking at y equals 3x plus 7. That's the answer, okay? So we found the slope by using this difference quotient. But now let's get something a little more complicated really quickly. I'm only going to take about 5 to 10 more minutes, okay? So if you got to go somewhere. But I'm going to erase this problem and not go to a new page so we can keep this up on top. I'm going to erase this so you can go back and look at the recording if you want to see it. But I'm going to erase this. Let me get my eraser a little bigger. Okay, now let's do this problem. F of x is equal to x squared minus 3x. A little more complicated. Some algebra skills have to be coming into play here. All right? Now, like I said before, we got to do f of x plus h. So the difference quotient is going to be equal to f of x plus h means I got to stick x plus h everywhere there's an x. So the setup is I got to square x, and then I got to subtract 3 times x. That's what this function says, right? And now I got to stick x plus h in there. I do it this way, and it clarifies it for me every time. Now, instead of just x squared, it's got to be x plus h squared. And instead of minus 3x, it's got to be minus 3x plus h. And then I got to subtract f of x. Again, parentheses. There's 2 terms. They both have to be affected by that minus sign over h. Okay, now, remember, so there's a couple of you that have typically in most classes, someone is thinking that x plus h squared is x squared plus h squared. And that's not correct, okay? Because this is x plus h times x plus h. So if you were thinking it's x squared plus h squared, flush that out of your head, okay? Don't let that linger, okay? This is what it is. And now let's distribute the minus sign. Let's do one step on each point here. Distribute that minus 3. I got minus 3x minus 3h minus x squared plus 3x. And pardon me for not stressing. Once you try to make sure you do this problem with me, okay? It's a good habit to get into this because we're going to be doing something similar really, really soon. I am not going to simplify all this, anything I can fix yet back here, back here. First, I'm going to distribute this x plus h and x plus h. Get in the habit. Every time you do it, it's going to come out like this, okay? X, remember, you got to use FOIL. FOIL, F-O-I-L, first times first, x squared. Outside and inside give you the same thing. So we've got 2hx, okay? And then we got the L, the last times last, we've got h squared. So this x plus h squared, it gives you x squared plus h squared, but you got the term in the middle because of the FOIL. That 2x plus 2hx is critical, part of the problem, okay? And now just write out the rest of it with me if you would. And then, because usually you're going to do this all in one step instead of doing this intermediate step to separate that x plus h, you know? And now a whole bunch of stuff cancels out. And one of the cool parts about this, you guys, is every term that's going to be left is going to have an h in it. That's what's a cool part of this. It's going to divide out with this h. So watch this. So I've got a positive x squared. I got a negative x squared. Gone. I got a minus 3x. I got a plus 3x. There's 3 terms left. They all have an h in it. I've got 2hx plus h squared minus 3h over h. And now something that's coming is when you're doing this problem, we're going to be doing limits. And we'll have a limit in front of this equation, this rational number. And we're going to take a limit as h is going to 0. Notice hear me say that again. What we're going to be doing is solving a problem that had the definition of derivative is that the limit as h goes to 0 of this is going to be the derivative. Right now, we're just solving this. This is called the difference quotient. But notice what happens. As h goes to 0, right now, that h is still in the denominator. That means it's a problem. We can't plug in 0 for 8. When you do limits of x going to a particular value, you can plug that number in usually and figure out what the answer is. Well, right now, if we plug 0 in for h, we got a 0 in the denominator. Doesn't fly. But look what happens. H is common. So what we have left, I take the h out, and I've got 2x plus h minus 3. And if you multiply it back, you should get the same back thing on the top. If there's some algebra skills that need to be sharpened there, that's cool. But now look what happens. Now, by taking that h out, the h's cancel. And the answer to our problem for this part right here is this. But notice, any of you that have taken calculus before, notice that I said we're going to have the limit as h goes to 0 on this, right? The limit as h goes to 0 on this. That means h would become 0, and you're left with, in the long run, it'll be that's 2x minus 3. And those of you that have had calculus before, notice what the derivative of this function f of x is. The derivative of the first term, that's going to be 2x. And the derivative of this term is going to be minus 3. That's going to be the shortcut answer. I'm going to ask you to be able to do this, though, in the process of doing the problem. Okay? So if you need to go back over that a couple different times, that'll be great and stuff. But make sure you get any questions at this point about what we just did. Okay, tomorrow, I want to meet again at 10:20. I want to get some rules down, talk about a few things. It's going to be a short class section. Again, hopefully it's going to end by 11 o'clock or so, or maybe a little bit after. But then you're going to you can apply yourself to looking at the videos I've made, the recordings I've made for problem solving, and that sort of stuff, okay? And go from there. But we're going to also, I'm going to ask you if you could tomorrow, if you all can be here, I'm going to ask us to go through a problem together. One of the things we're going to do, and I'm going to ask you to get the answer correct on your paper and upload it into As You Learn. And that's going to count point-wise toward your grade, all right? So the idea of if you can be there, and if you can't be there at that time, then I'll have a recording and you can do it during a specific window later in the day, okay? But the idea is, if you can be there tomorrow, we're going to work through a problem together. I'm going to ask you to upload it into As You Learn. Let me see it. And then I can give you feedback, and that'll be something you'll get points on this time, okay? So tomorrow, the plan is be here at 10:20. If you can't, there'll be a recording again tomorrow of that class time. You can do it, look at the recording, and do what you got to do, all right? Any other questions here? Any questions about the course format or anything like that? Okay, tell you what. I'm going to go ahead and end this meeting. If you've got questions and you want to get with me or something like that, I'm going to stay until 12:30 on the Zoom that's up in the first box that says office hours, okay? So right now I'm going to be shifting into office hours. If you've got questions you want to ask me or something like that, click back into that. I'm going to go there in just a minute and open that up and give opportunity. If anybody wants to ask questions or anything, you can do it there, all right? If anybody wants to linger on here, feel free to do so. I'm gonna take a couple minutes to let you sign off, but I'm gonna go back and feel free. That's all I'm doing for today in the class. Get going on as you learn, sapling problems, and check out the lecture slides that I have in sapling. P1, P2, P3, and lectures 11A, 11B, and 12. Take a look at those, make sure they're making sense. And if not, make sure you come back, let me know tomorrow, and let me know we can get things clarified, okay?
Dr. Bob, somebody had asked in the chats, when are the homework assignments due, and are we just doing chapter 1 homework this week?
Okay, Kate, I could hear you. You were talking, but the volume was very low. I don't know if.
Oh, okay.
There, that's very clear now. Go ahead, ask again.
Somebody had asked in the chats, when are the homework assignments due, and are we just doing chapter 1 homework this week?
Yeah, they're basically going to be due. The goal, and I'll talk about this later on too, but the goal is the homework problems are meant for the test. So the goal is to get them done right away, get them done before the quiz, the material is going to be on. But the first set of homework problems, the sapling stuff, is basically going to be due at the first exam.
Okay.
And it would be ideal to crank through the ones that I'm going to ask you to take a quiz on Thursday, and to go through the material from 1-1, 1-2, 1-1, and 1-2. Get that under your belt. Do the sapling homework problems that you can. And I put 1-3 up there, but we haven't talked about it yet. But if you want to look at continuous functions, that's what that's about. Feel free to do that. But I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. But so homework that's a good question. And I'll make a point to say that if you didn't hear it yet, the homework will typically be due on the day of the exam that it's been given in, okay? Good question, Kate, thank you. Anybody else have anything? All right, great. Well, have a good one. And hope maybe see you tomorrow, and be well. I'm gonna go ahead and end this and make a recording of it for anybody who's not here, all right? All right, thank you, be well.
Thanks, have a good one.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to open up also the office hours Zoom right now too. So if you open to ask me questions, you can ask there.